I died choking on my own blood in the back of that godforsaken Chicago alley. My fiancé's hands, those same hands that once slipped a diamond ring on my finger, wrapped around my throat like a noose made of lies. The last thing I saw was Ethan's face, twisted not in remorse, but in cold calculation, as he whispered, "You were never part of the plan, Isla." And then, nothing, until the world snapped back into focus, my heart slamming against my ribs like a caged animal, and I realized with a gut-wrenching jolt that I was 25 again, staring at the sterile white walls of Cook County Hospital, 2 years before that betrayal ever happened. It was the same shift, the same fluorescent hum buzzing overhead like a swarm of angry bees. I'd just clocked in for the night, my scrubs still crisp from the laundry, when the charge nurse shoved a chart into my hands. Room 412. Isla. Old guy. Terminal cancer. Won't talk to anyone. Make it quick, he's a grouch. I nodded, forcing a smile because that's what you do when you're the newbie RN scraping by on student loans and dreams of something better than bedpans and midnight meds. But as I pushed open the door to 412, the air felt thicker, laced with a metallic tang of regret and something darker, like the echo of a scream I hadn't uttered yet. The man in the bed was a ghost of himself, gaunt cheeks shadowed by a salt and pepper beard, eyes like chipped obsidian staring at the ceiling as if it held the answers to why the universe had dealt him this hand. Tubes snaked from his arms to beeping machines, and the room smelled of wilted flowers someone had probably sent out of obligation. He didn't look at me when I entered, just rasped, "Leave me alone, kid. I don't need your pity parade." His voice was gravel wrapped in silk, the kind that hinted at boardrooms and backroom deals long before hospital gowns. I should have walked out. God knows I had enough charts piling up, enough drama in my own life, my crappy apartment in Wicker Park, the endless cycle of bad dates and worse exes. But something in his tone snagged me, a raw edge that mirrored the ache in my own chest from a lifetime of being the fixer, the one who patched up everyone else's messes while mine festered. In my first life, I'd ignored it, chalked it up to burnout, and moved on. But now I knew better. This was the pivot, the thread that unraveled everything. "Pity," I said, pulling up a chair without asking. "Nah, Mr. Harrington. I'm off the clock in my head already. Tell me about the view instead. Those skyscrapers out there look like they could swallow the whole city whole." He turned then, slow as a rusted hinge, and fixed me with a stare that peeled back layers I didn't know I had. "Harrington? Who told you that?" A flicker of paranoia, or maybe fear, crossed his face. I shrugged, tapping the chart. "It's on here. Elias Harrington. Age 68. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. Family. Estranged." The word hung like smoke, and I watched him flinch. In my past life, that would have been the end of it, a perfunctory med check and goodbye. But this time, I leaned in. Estranged how? Kids who forgot your birthday. Or the full-on soap opera kind. Elias let out a bark of laughter that dissolved into a cough, hacking into a tissue until his eyes watered. When he recovered, he eyed me like I was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. The kind where your only son thinks you're dead, or wishes you were. Victor Harrington thinks he's the king of the Windy City now, building his empire on my bones. Victor. The name hit like a freight train. In my first go-round, I'd met Ethan first, the charming architect with the easy smile and trust fund glow, never knowing his real last name until the wedding invites went out. Harrington. Ethan's father, Elias, had been the invisible specter, the billionaire who'd vanished from the family ledger after some corporate scandal 20 years back. Estranged didn't cover it. Victor had buried him alive in paperwork and whispers. I swallowed hard, the pieces slotting into place with a sickening click. This wasn't random. This was the origin story of my destruction. 2 years from now, I'd fall for Ethan, Victor Harrington's golden boy. The son who'd clawed his way to VP at his grandfather's old firm by any means necessary. I'd comfort this dying man in fleeting moments between shifts, never suspecting he was the key to the vault of secrets that would get me killed. Elias, in his loneliness, would let slip fragments, offshore accounts, falsified documents, a murder pinned on a rival that Victor had orchestrated to seize control. I'd keep his confidence, thinking it harmless gossip, until Ethan found out. Then the gaslighting, the accidental overdose scare, and finally, that alley Ethan's hands, Victor's orders, all to silence the woman who'd gotten too close to the truth. But not this time. This time, I was armed with the ghosts of my own grave. Sounds like Victor's got some explaining to do, I said lightly, adjusting his foredrip with steady hands that belied the storm inside. Elias's eyes narrowed.
Serkin Mine.
You know him? I shook my head, the lie smooth as bourbon.
Nah.
But I've seen enough family feuds in this job to know when a man's been screwed over. Tell me more. Off the record. He hesitated. Then the dam cracked, a torrent of bitterness spilling out about boardroom betrayals. A son who'd forged signatures to lock him out of the company. And a hidden ledger that could topple empires. By the end of the shift, I'd coaxed a smile from him, promised to sneak in contraband coffee next time, and slipped out with a burner phone number scrawled on a napkin. Call if you need an ear, I'd said. In my first life, I never followed up. This time, as I stepped into the biting Chicago wind, rain starting to spit from the overcast sky, I knew this was war. Elias Harrington wasn't just a patient, he was my weapon. And Victor? He'd learn what happens when you bury secrets. They dig their way back up. Claws first. The weeks blurred into a rhythm of double shifts and clandestine visits. Elias warmed to me like a man starved for light, sharing stories of his rise from South Side hustler to Wall Street wolf, the deals that built Harrington Industries into a conglomerate spanning real estate, tech, and shadowy investments no one talked about. Victor's got the charm. He'd grunt over smuggled pastrami sandwiches, but no spine. Thinks blood means loyalty, but he'd sell his own mother for a better quarter.
Idenot.
Filing it away. My mind a steel trap now. Every detail a bullet in my arsenal. Meanwhile, my normal life chugged along, a deliberate echo of the path I'd walked before. I dated casually, nothing serious. No entanglements with the Harrington orbit yet. Ethan would enter the picture at a charity gala in 6 months. The one where I'd spill red wine on his tux and laugh it off like fate. This time, I'd skip it. But revenge wasn't a straight line. It was a web, and I needed to spin it carefully. First, I dug. Late nights in my shoebox apartment, laptop glowing like a confessional. I hacked together public records, LinkedIn deep dives, and whispers from nursing station gossip. Victor Harrington, silver fox in tailored suits, philanthropist facade hiding a predator who'd crushed unions, bribed officials, and allegedly offed a whistleblower in the 90s, ruled a suicide. But the scent of cover-up lingered. Elias's confessions painted the fuller picture. The estranged father wasn't the villain Victor claimed, no embezzler fleeing to the Caymans. but a man sidelined by his own son during a hostile takeover. Victor had planted evidence of fraud,
Frozen assets.
and turned the board against him. Elias had retreated to this anonymity, faking his death in the press to watch from the shadows, gathering proof on an encrypted drive he'd hidden years ago. "It's in the family vault," he wheezed one night, eyes fever-bright. Chicago Trust Bank. Safety deposit 478. Code's my birthday, March 15th. 57. "But kid, if you go there, Victor'll come for you." I didn't flinch. Let him. The truth was, the fear was there, a cold knot in my gut.
But it fueled me.
In my past life, I'd been too trusting, too eager to play the good girl. This Isla? She was forged in betrayal's fire. I started small, anonymous tips to investigative bloggers about Harrington Industries' shady offshore ties. Watching from afar as stock dipped a fraction, Victor's smug press conferences cracking at the edges. Then bolder, befriending a junior exec at a bar crawl, plying him with shots and questions until he spilled about the old man's ghost haunting the C-suite. But the real hook sank in when Elias handed me the key. Not metaphorical, a literal brass fob, taped under his mattress during a routine vitals check. "You're the only one who's listened," he murmured, voice fading as chemo sapped his strength. "Don't let him win.
Isla.
Promise me." His hand trembled in mine, papery skin over bones that once signed multimillion deals. I promised, throat tight, because in that moment, I saw my own reflection, discarded, underestimated, raging against the machine. Elias died 2 weeks later, quietly in the dawn light, the monitors flatlining like a sigh of relief. The obit ran buried in the tribals. John Doe, 68, per his wishes. Victor never showed. Fury boiled then, pure and clarifying. I waited for the funeral, mine,
In a way.
the shedding of the old Isla, then made my move. The bank vault was a tomb of polished oak and armed guards, but the code clicked open like destiny. Inside, a thumb drive, yellowed ledgers, photos of Victor shaking hands with mobbed-up developers. Jackpot. Enough to bury him in lawsuits.
SC Prod.
The works. But I didn't rush to the feds.
No.
This was personal. Ethan was the blade, Victor the hand. I'd cut them both. The gala loomed like a guillotine. I'd RSVP'd this time, not as the klutzy nurse, but as Isla Reyes. RN with a fabricated invite from a donor friend. Black dress hugging curves I'd once hidden. Hair swept up to expose the scar from a childhood fall, ironic. That mark of survival. The venue was the Art Institute. Chandeliers dripping light over tuxes and gowns. Champagne flutes clinking like false promises. I spotted Ethan first, tall, broad-shouldered, that boyish grin masking the serpent beneath. He was laughing with a cluster of socialites. Victor at his elbow, the patriarch in bespoke Armani, surveying his kingdom. Our eyes met across the room, and there it was, the spark. In my first life, it ignited something warm. Now, it was gunpowder. He approached, all smooth lines and cologne that screamed old money. Isla, right? You look
Familiar. Lie.
We hadn't met yet. I smiled, tilting my head. Maybe from your dreams. Handsome. Or nightmares. He chuckled, charmed, and just like that, the dance began. Drinks. Banter. his hand on the small of my back as he introduced me to Victor. The old man stiffened, recognition flickering like a bad bulb. Miss Reyes. A pleasure. His grip was iron, eyes boring into mine, warning or plea. I held it, unblinking. The pleasure's mine, Mr. Harrington. I've heard so much about you. The double entendre hung, and Victor's jaw ticked. Ethan, oblivious, steered us to the dance floor, his touch electric with memory. As we swayed to some string quartet droning Sinatra, I whispered, "Tell me about your family."
Ethan.
The real stories. He hesitated, then spun a sanitized tale. Absent father. Driven grandfather. Rise to glory. I played along. The perfect ingenue. But inside, I cataloged every slip, the way his eyes darted when Victor's name came up, the subtle tension in his shoulders. By night's end, he had my number. A date set for next week. Phase 1. Infiltrate. But as I slipped into a cab, rain lashing the windows, doubt crept in. Was I becoming them? Scheming in shadows. Lies as currency? The drive's contents burned a hole in my clutch. A Pandora's box I couldn't unopen. Dating Ethan was like swallowing poison disguised as honey, sweet at first, then the burn that hollowed you out from the inside. Our first outing was that cliché Chicago spot, Giordano's for deep dish. The kind loaded with sausage and cheese that drips like regret. He picked me up in his Audi, all polished chrome and leather seats that whispered privilege, and I played the part, wide-eyed wonder at his architect tales, laughter at his jokes that weren't funny. "You're different, Isla," he said over a second slice, his knee brushing mine under the table. "Not like the others. Real." If only he knew how real the nightmare waiting for him would be. I let it escalate, measured doses of vulnerability to reel him in. Shared shifts at the hospital became excuses for late-night texts. My tough upbringing, in Pilsen, mirrored his rags-to-riches spin on the Harrington legacy, conveniently omitting the blood money. Sex came easy, his loft in the Gold Coast, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the lake like a postcard, our bodies tangling in sheets that cost more than my rent. In my first life, I'd melted into it, convinced it was love. This time, every moan was reconnaissance, every post-coital murmur a map to his weaknesses. He talked in his sleep once, fragments of Dad's mess and can't let it surface, confirming what Elias had sworn. Victor had killed to protect the empire, and Ethan was complicit, the loyal son bearing bodies literal and figurative. Meanwhile, I built my arsenal. The thumb drive, backed up on 3 clouds, encrypted with passwords only I'd crack. I enlisted allies carefully.
My old med school buddy,
Raj, now a cybersecurity whiz in Silicon Valley, for digital fortifications. A journalist contact from a nursing conference, Lena, who owed me for covering her shift during a custody battle. She started sniffing around Harrington's tax filings, her emails buzzing with "This is dynamite. Girl, offshore shells in Panama? Ring any bells?" I fed them crumbs, never the loaf, because trust was a luxury I couldn't afford. Paranoia set in early, a tale on my subway rides home. A hacked voicemail with Ethan's voice glitching through. Victor was watching. The controversy brewed in whispers first. Leaks hit the Sun-Times, anonymous sources alleging Harrington Industries funneled bribes to city aldermen for a loop development that displaced hundreds of low-income families. Stock plummeted 5 points overnight. Victor's face on every morning show. That avuncular smile strained as he decried witch hunts. Ethan raged at dinner one night, slamming his fork into a ribeye. It's bullshit.
Isla.
Grandpa built this from nothing, immigrants like your folks. Scraping by. Now these vultures want to tear it down. I soothed him, hand on his thigh, murmuring sympathies while my mind screamed the truth. Elias had built it, and Victor had poisoned the foundations. Our engagement happened 6 months in, faster than before, a blitz of romance to cement his facade. The ring was a rock, princess cut, screaming mine in carats. He proposed on Navy Pier, fireworks exploding over the water like celebratory gunfire. Crowd cheering as I said yes through tears that were pure theater. Victor hosted the party at his Gold Coast mansion, a sprawling beast of marble and malice, where champagne flowed and toasts masked the undercurrent of control. To family, he said, clinking glasses with me, his eyes like daggers. May it bind us all. Ethan beamed, oblivious. But I caught the maid's furtive glance, the way she averted her eyes when Victor passed. Later, in the powder room, I overheard her on the phone. See? El Señor is asking about the nurse again.
La chica con el anillo.
Fear tasted like bile.
But it sharpened me.
I accelerated, slipped a ledger page to Lena, who ran a front-page exposé on the 90s whistleblower suicide, a union rep who'd uncovered Victor's ties to organized labor shakedowns. The piece quoted sources close to the family, and suddenly, Ethan's calls went to tense voicemails. His touches turned possessive. You hear anything at work? About us? He'd probe, eyes searching mine over breakfast omelets. I'd feign innocence. Just the usual gossip. Babe, while plotting the next strike. The real fracture came at the bachelor party leak. I'd planted a bug in Ethan's phone during a shower mishap, Raj's tech making it seamless.
Audio gold? Ethan.
Slurred on bourbon, confessing to his groomsmen about cleaning up Dad's old dirt. That nurse bitch from the hospital? She knew too much. Had to go. Laughter. Backslaps. The casual cruelty of men who think power absolves sin. I listen in my car outside the club. Rain drumming the roof. Tears hot on my cheeks, not for the man I'd loved once, but for the girl who died believing in him. Enough. Time to twist the knife. I confronted him subtly first, over a romantic weekend in Door County, cabins by the lake. Autumn leaves like blood on the wind. Curled by the fire, I murmured, Ethan, tell me about your grandfather. The real Elias. I met someone once. In the hospital, his body went rigid, poker in his arms. What? I pressed, voice soft as sin. He spoke of you. Said you were brilliant, but lost. Lies layered on truth. And he cracked, admitting the takeover. The forged docs, but swearing Elias was the crook. He abandoned us.
Isla.
Left Mom to die broke while he hid his stash. Gaslighting 101. But I had the recordings, the ledgers. And the whistleblower? Your dad's hands clean there? He lunged then. Not violent yet. But the mask slipped, eyes feral. Hands gripping my shoulders. Who the fuck are you really? I shoved him off. Heart pounding. Someone who knows monsters when she sees them. I fled to the car. Tires spinning gravel. His shouts fading in the rear view. By dawn, I was back in Chicago, drive in hand, ready to unleash hell. But Victor moved faster. My apartment trashed that night, drawers gutted.
Laptop smashed.
A note on the mirror in lipstick. Walk away. Or join the old man. Rage crystallized. I went underground, crashed at Raj's cousins in Logan Square. Burner phones stacking up. Lena's next piece dropped like a bomb. Full dossier on the Panama accounts, tied to human trafficking rings in the city's underbelly. Victor's empire quaked. FBI knocks echoed in headlines. Ethan called 50 times. Voicemails a descent from pleading to threats. You're ruining everything.
Isla.
Come back. Or I'll make sure no one finds you. I saved them all. Ammunition for the trial I envisioned. The high-stakes gamble came at the wedding rehearsal. Ironic.
That.
The church in Lincoln Park. Stained glass bleeding color onto white lace. Family milling like sharks in suits. I showed. Uninvited. Ring glinting mockingly as I strode down the aisle. Victor at the altar. Ethan pale beside him.
Isla, isen hist.
But I ignored him, thrusting the drive at Victor. Your legacy. In full color. Call it off. Or this goes viral by morning. Gasps rippled. His wife, Ethan's mother, Margaret, clutched her pearls. Victor's face was thunder. You little. But I cut him off. Voice steady as the grave. Elias sent me. Said to tell you Karma's a bitch with a nurse's cap. The name hung. And Margaret gasped, hand to mouth. Twist one. She hadn't known he was alive. Victor snarled, lunging, but security, mine, tipped off, swarmed. Chaos erupted, screams, flashes from press-eyed alerted. Ethan tackling me in a desperate grab that ended with him face down, cuffs clicking. In the squad car, sirens wailing through the night, I exhaled. Not victory yet, but the dominoes toppled. Victor's arrest followed at dawn, RICO charges. Conspiracy. The works. Ethan's too. Accessory after the fact. The headline screamed, Harrington dynasty crumbles. Billionaires' dark secrets exposed. I vanished into witness protection's embrace. A new name. A quiet suburb upstate. But the scars itched like fresh ink. Protection felt like a cage with better locks, a nondescript ranch house in Naperville. Blinds drawn against prying eyes. A handler named Carla who brought groceries and small talk laced with surveillance. You're safe now. Isla, or whatever you're calling yourself, she'd say. Unpacking kale and almond milk like talismans. But safety was a lie. Nightmares clawed me awake. Ethan's hands phantom tight around my throat. Victor's sneer echoing in the quiet. I'd won the battle. But the war? It simmered in depositions and delayed trials. Victor's lawyers spinning webs of deniability. The controversy exploded nationally. Pundits on CNN dissected the Harrington scandal like a carcass. Was it corporate greed run amok? Or a daughter's revenge porn for the elite? Feminists hailed me as a whistleblower avenger. Conservatives decried me as a gold-digging harpy out to destroy American jobs. Social media lit up. Nurse revenge trending. Memes of me in scrubs wielding a stethoscope like a sword. I watched from my burner tablet. Detached. Until the death threat started. Emails promising alley justice. Packages with razors and Polaroids of my old apartment. Ethan's trial was the circus. I testified first. Voice steady under fluorescent glare. Laying out the ledgers. The recordings. Elias's dying words transcribed like scripture. He trusted me. I said to the jury. 12 strangers in off-rack suits. And they killed for greed. Ethan stared from the defense table. Shackled but suited. His eyes pleading then hardening into hate. She's lying. Your Honor, she seduced me for this. His lawyer pounced, painting me as the schemer. The jilted bride with a vendetta. Cross-examination dragged. MS. Reyes. Isn't it true you fabricated evidence? That you had motive after Mr. Harrington ended the engagement. The courtroom buzzed. Reporters scribbling frenzy. I met his gaze. Ended it?
No.
Counselor. He tried to end me. Gasps. The judge's gavel cracking like thunder. But the twist gutted me. Margaret Harrington took the stand next. Tear-streaked and trembling. Elias wasn't estranged by choice, she whispered, voice breaking. Victor.
He threatened me.
Said if I reached out, he'd take the kids. Ethan sobbed. Head in hands. Victor. Stone-faced across the room. Mouthed traitor. It humanized them. Cracked my armor, Margaret. Complicit yet cowed. A victim in her own gilded hell. Verdicts came swift. Victor. Life without parole on racketeering and manslaughter. Ethan. 20 years for conspiracy and attempted murder. The alley chokehold? Elevated to assault with intent, thanks to bruises I'd hidden in life won. Cheers outside the courthouse. But I slipped away. Carla's arm staring me through back alleys to a waiting SUV. You did good. Kid, she muttered. Good? Ide tu platitans. But the emptiness yawned wider. Friends from the hospital sent cards. Proud of you.
Isla.
But trust? Shattered like the drive I'd smashed post-trial. Reentry was the real killer. New identity. Elena Vasquez. Telehealth nurse in a sleepy Milwaukee suburb. Consulting from a home office with beige walls and motivational posters. Dates were disasters. Men sensing the walls I built higher than Victor's skyscrapers. You're intense, one said, bolting after I dodged questions about my past.
Nights.
I'd drive to the lake. Waves lapping like accusations. Was revenge justice? Or just another poison? Elias's voice haunted. Don't let him win. But who was him now, the dead? Or the ghost in my mirror? The deeper cut came months in a letter, forwarded through channels. Postmarked from a women's prison in Dwight. Margaret. Dear Isla, Elena, I owe you truths. Elias and I. We loved once. Before Victor twisted him into a weapon. He faked his death to protect us. But I was weak. Forgive?
No.
Understand? Please. Enclosed, a photo. Yellowed. Of young Elias cradling a baby, Ethan, with Margaret beaming. On the back. Family isn't blood. It's choice. I burned it in the sink. Flames dancing like the gala fireworks. But the ash stuck. Controversy dogged me still. A docuseries pitched, The Nurse Who Toppled Titans, offers from Netflix. Book deals from agents smelling blood. I declined, but leaks happened. My real story twisted into tabloid fodder, implying I'd slept my way to the vault. Raj called. Voice tight. They're doxing your safe house.
Elena.
Move. I didn't. Instead, I fought back. Anonymous posts on whistleblower forums. Guiding other women out of abusive orbits. Turning pain into playbook. The climax brewed unexpectedly. A parole hearing for Victor. Expedited on health grounds. Irony. That. The cancer Elias died from, now his ticket out. I got wind via Lena. Now a podcaster riding the scandal wave. He's claiming dementia.
Elena.
Bullshit. But the board's soft on billionaires. Rage reignited. Hot and familiar. I petitioned to speak. Incognito. Voice modulated through a screen. The hearing room virtual. Suits and Mr. Harrington buried men alive. I said, words honed like scalpels. Don't let him bury justice too. Twist 2. Ethan's testimony. Piped in from his cell. Dad's a monster.
Yeah. But Isla.
She played us all. Knew from the start.
Lies.
Venomous. But the polygraph-eyed insisted on beeped clean. Wait.
No.
The board paused. Murmurs. Then Victor's doctor testified. Fabricated scans showing decline. Granted.
Parole.
The screen went black, and I shattered a mug, shards embedding in my palm like stigmata. Flight instinct kicked in. I bolted, drove west through cornfields to the Badlands, South Dakota, where rock formations loomed like judgment. A motel in Rapid City. Neon sign flickering vacancy like a dare. There, in the dim glow of a desk lamp, I unpacked the final secret, a second drive. Hidden in Elias's key fob, Raj cracking it remotely. Files on Victor's retirement plan, not just bribes, but a hit list. My name circled in red from before we met. Preemptive. And Ethan's addendum, a love letter to some mistress. Dated weeks before our engagement, promising, once the nurse is gone, it's you and me. Betrayals full circle. I leaked it all to the board, the press, the world. Victor's parole revoked mid-transport. A stroke, real this time, felling him in cuffs. Ethan, isolated in solitary for new evidence of perjury. Margaret? She visited me once, unannounced at a coffee shop in Madison, gaunt in sunglasses. Thank you, she whispered, sliding an envelope, Elias's will, naming me beneficiary to a trust he'd squirreled away.
Million.
Clean. For the girl who listened. I didn't touch it. Donated to domestic violence shelters. Anonymously. The money was tainted. Freedom wasn't. Redemption tasted like black coffee in a diner off I-90. Steam rising like ghosts as I stared at the horizon. Badlands fading in the rear view. The leaks had done their work. Victor's empire auctioned off in fire sale chunks. Charities and competitors carving up the corpse. Headlines shifted. Harrington heiress emerges. Nurse's fortune funds justice reforms. They meant the trust. But I was long gone. Elena Vasquez dissolving into Isla Reyes once more. This time on my terms. A small practice in Bozeman, Montana. Telehealth by day. Hiking grizzly trails by dusk, where the air bit clean and secrets couldn't hide in smog. But tension coiled. A spring wound too tight. Paranoia was my shadow. Every rustle in the pines a tale. Every wrong number a threat. Raj set up alerts. Harrington mentions spiking with conspiracy nuts claiming I'd faked the trials. Deep state puppet strings. Lena interviewed me off-record once. Voice recorder off. Over Zoom from her Brooklyn walk-up. Was it worth it? Isla? The blood on your hands. I laughed. Bitter. Whose blood? Theirs washed clean in boardrooms. Mine? It built something. She nodded. Eyes knowing. Twist ending. Ethan's writing a book from prison. Betrayed by the bride. Publishers biting. The book dropped a year in. Ghost-written sludge hitting shelves with my face airbrushed on the cover. Vixen in scrubs. Ethan's victim narrative flipped. Reviews gushed. Gripping tale of ambition's cost. Sales soared. He got royalties. The system winking at white-collar crooks. Controversy reignited. Protests outside my clinic. Free Ethan signs waving like nooses. I ignored it. Focused on patients, a rancher's wife escaping bruises. A vet with PTSD ghosts. Healing others mended fractures in me, stitch by ragged stitch. The Highwire act peaked at a survivors' conference in Denver, invited as keynote. From victim to victor. Irony dripped. The ballroom hummed with women like me, scarred, fierce, trading war stories over Chardonnay. I spoke raw. The alley, the rebirth, the choices that blurred hero and villain. Revenge isn't clean, I said, voice echoing off chandeliers. It stains you. But silence? That's the real death. Applause thundered. But in the Q&A, a plant, obvious, with his slick hair and recorder, piped up, MS. Reyes. Isn't this just vigilantism? You ruin lives, jobs lost. Families shattered. The room tensed. Breaths held. I leaned into the mic, heart hammering. Ruined? Victor ruined bodies for profit. Unions busted. Rivals vanished. I exposed. If that's vigilante, sign me up. Murmurs swelled to cheers. But the seed lodged. Had I? The layoffs from the conglomerates fall. Thousands pink-slipped. Pensions gutted. Guilt gnawed. A controversial calculus. One man's justice. A city's collateral. That night. Hotel bar solitude. A Scotch neat burning answers. Margaret appeared like a specter, uninvited. Elegant in cashmere. Eyes hollowed by loss. Isla. No Elena. No pretense. We sat. Silence thick as fog.
Ethan. He's broken.
Blames you. But it's me. I raised him in lies. Her confession spilled. Elias's death, a pact to shield her from Victor's rages. Ethan groomed as heir apparent. Complicit from college, falsifying reports, silencing informants. You were the variable. The good in him. I scoffed. Good? He choked it out of me. She flinched. Then, the twist you never knew. Elias wasn't dying of cancer. Poison. Victor's doing. Slow drip to erase him quiet. The world tilted. Not terminal. Murder. Premeditated. In the very hospital where I'd met him. Rage. Fresh and volcanic. Surged. Why tell me now? She slid a vial across the bar. Empty. Labeled morphine overdose. Proof. Foreclosure. Or the sequel. I pocketed it. Mind racing. Toxicology could confirm. Reopen Elias's natural death as homicide. But the cost? Dragging Margaret down. Ethan's appeals fueled. Controversial choice. Mercy or the kill shot. I chose the gray. Anonymous drop to the DA vial. Chain of custody intact via Raj's forensics contact.
No fingerprints. No glory.
Elias's obit amended months later. Foul play suspected. Victor. Rotting in Supermax. Got an extra count, murder 1.
Ethan?
His book deal tanked. Liar's lament shelved. Margaret vanished to Europe. Whispers of a convent.
Peace.
Fragile as eggshell. Back in Bozeman. Life rooted tentative. A patient turned partner, Tom. A park ranger with calloused hands and quiet strength, who saw the cracks without prying. Dates by Yellowstone's geysers. Steam veiling kisses, talks of futures without fine print. Your force.
Isla de Say.
Lacing fingers over campfire crackle. But you carry it alone. I leaned in. Vulnerability a risk worth taking. Not anymore. The final twist slithered in spring. A package. No return. Wrapped in butcher paper. Inside, the engagement ring. Pawned and repurchased. Note in Ethan's scrawl. You win. But remember me. I hiked to a cliffside, wind whipping hair like flags of surrender, and hurled it into the abyss, gold glinting farewell. Echoes faded, and for the first time, the knot in my chest loosened. Years blurred into a tapestry of ordinary miracles, Tom's proposal under Montana stars. Simple band of elk antler inlay, a daughter. Born screaming into snow-dusted December. Named Lila after the light Elias had kindled in me. The clinic thrived, a haven for the overlooked, migrant workers with workmen's comp nightmares. Single moms juggling fevers and evictions. I mentored nurses now, young Islas with fire in their eyes, teaching not just vitals but vigilance. Trust your gut. It's the best monitor there is. Controversies faded to footnotes. Harrington a cautionary tale in business ethics classes. My name a whisper in true crime pods. But tension never fully uncoiled. It simmered. A low hum. Dreams revisited the alley, hands ghosting my throat. But waking to Tom's arm heavy across my waist grounded me. We built a life. Cabin on the Gallatin. Wildflower garden Lila trampled with glee. Holidays with his ranger crew roasting marshmallows and swapping tall tales. Yet secrets lingered. Barnacles on the hull. The trust money? Funneled into a foundation, Reyes Relief. Funding legal aid for abuse survivors. Exposing corporate predators without the spotlight. Lena keynoted its launch, her podcast evolving to Shadows Exposed, crediting a certain nurse in every intro. The denouement crept in autumn, leaves turning crimson like old blood. A call from Carla. Retired now. Voice gravelly. Victor's gone. Heart attack in his cell. Alone.
No fanfare.
Just a pauper's pine box.
Ethan?
Paroled early for good behavior. Conditions strict, no contact orders. Therapy mandates. He'd vanished to some nowhere town in New Mexico. Rehabilitated per a puff piece in the Post. The article twisted fresh, from heir to humble, Ethan's redemption road. Photo of him at a soup kitchen. Sleeves rolled. Smile practiced. My stomach turned. Redemption? Or rebrand? I debated ignoring it. But the vial's echo nagged. Closure demanded confrontation. Controversial as lighting a match in dry tinder. Tom sensed it. Brow furrowed over coffee. This about them? I nodded. Honest for once. Need to see it end. He squeezed my hand. Then go. But come back. Lila's hug at the airport, chubby arms fierce, nearly broke me. Flight to Albuquerque. Window seat staring at clouds like cotton wounds. He waited at a roadside cafe. Bleached by desert sun thinner. Lines etched deeper. But those eyes. Unchanged. Predatory gleam dulled to desperation. Isla. No Elena. No pretense. We sat in a booth sticky with fry grease. Coffee black and bitter between us. Silence stretched. Then he cracked. I thought you'd come sooner. To gloat. I sipped. Steady. Not my style. Yours. Though, the book. The sob stories. He winced. Authentic maybe. It was bullshit. Therapy. Makes you face it. What I did to you. To Dad.
Dad.
The word hung. And tears his spilled. Hot and unscripted. Confession poured. The poison. Victor's orders to handle the loose end in the hospital. Ethan's compliance. Forging the overdose script. I was 22. Ambitious. Thought it made me strong. My voice ice. It made you a killer. He nodded. Broken. And you? The revenge. It saved me, in a way. Force the mirror. Twist final. He wasn't there for absolution, but amends, a folder. Legal docs transferring his residual shares in the old company, now defunct, to my foundation. For Elias. And you. I took it. Not forgiveness, but finality. Don't contact again.
Outside.
Sun baking the lot. I breathed free. The cycle snapped. Back in Bozeman. Lila's laughter chased shadows. Tom's kiss sealed the peace. Elias visited once more. In a dream, smiling.
Whole.
Nodding approval. You listened. Now live. The end? Not tragic. Not fairy tale, just real. A woman reborn. Scars badges, not burdens. Building empires of quiet justice. In America's heartland, where storms brew fierce but skies clear vast, I walked forward. No more ghosts. Only light.